And yes, I am so excited to have Libby Sharman joining us today. So Libby is an exploration geologist currently working as the technical lead for BHP Xplor, having spent 5 years prior to that with BHP Metals Exploration, contributing to the global exploration strategy through project generation and prospectivity analysis. And she's here because BHP Xplor is back and the search is on for the 2024 cohort. So she'll be chatting to us today about the program, and then we'll be opening up the floor. So please don't be shy. This is the time for questions. We'll be opening up the floor very soon. And yeah, it's a great opportunity to get Libby's insights. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you, Libby, for being here. It's awesome having you.
Thanks so much, Jess. And I am genuinely very happy to be here. And it is, as I said, nice to do a really fun one, something a little bit more relaxed. I do have a couple of slides I'm going to go through. And then, as Jess said, happy to take questions, have a bit of a discussion, talk geology if you'd like. So I'm gonna do the obligatory share screen and make sure that you can all see it. Thank you so much all for dialing on. I'm here today to talk you through a little bit about BHP Xplor and why we think it's the next dimension of minerals exploration, why we're so excited about it, because we truly believe it is something that will be delivering different and dynamic discoveries. It would not be a BHP presentation without a disclaimer. You can read that back on the recording. And for those of you who may not be aware, which given the Australian dominant audience today is probably not so many of you, just a quick note about BHP. We are the world's largest integrated mining company. We mine copper for the electrification of the planet, nickel for batteries and other materials, potash for sustainable agriculture, and iron ore and met coal for steel production. But I am not here today to talk about the mining end of the business. What I'm here today is to talk way at the other end, which is the exploration pipeline for metals exploration and where BHP Xplor fits in. And BHP Xplor came about as a different way of tackling a business challenge. And that challenge was that we were struggling to see ways of bringing early stage exploration, concept-based projects into our exploration pipeline. Often with concept-driven projects or early stage projects, there's not a lot of geological data. It's a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts, and working out how best to invest in those in a way that was supportive of both the junior companies or individuals, but also BHP was a challenge. And in order to come up with a solution, we looked outside of the mining industry, all the way to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley has been running accelerator models for a long time, something in the tech industry, pharmaceuticals, things like that. And we thought that we could re-engineer that accelerator model and bring it to minerals exploration. A quick note on what makes an accelerator model. It has to have an open call for applications. There's usually a funding amount associated with it, as well as some sort of program, coaching, mentorship, that sort of thing. And we looked at a way to package all of that up, and we came up with the BHP Xplor program. And we think BHP Xplor is different. We think it is a way of building confidence and partnership between the junior exploration industry and a major such as ourselves. I could explain why I think it builds confidence, but I'm going to use the words of Ross McGowan, who's the CEO of Tutume Metals, who was one of the participants in the 2023 Xplor cohort, when he said confidence in exploration is key. And this program gave us the confidence to go out and explore. And I think that's really important. That's a really key message that ran the thread of our experience with the first cohort, and is something that we're really looking to take forward into this next year, is how can we bring the the experience, the knowledge, the finances of BHP, and bring those to these junior exploration programs. Another thing that we like to think is that BHP Xplor is dynamic. We are looking at different ways of bringing together major companies and junior companies to look to the future of exploration. Definitely the way we are looking, as I said, at partnering, moving things forward, collaboration, sharing of ideas. The Xplor program is a little bit of seeing behind the curtain of BHP, if you will. And we would like to think that it's also for everybody. So all of you who are sitting on this call today, some of you may be individuals who are working on your own exploration ideas or working in academia and have been thinking about some different projects and different directions that you might take the exploration industry. Some of you may be with private companies, so you're not publicly listed, you're out there doing your thing, you've got a great team behind you, and you're working away and you think you've got the next thing to change the world of exploration. Or you may be a public company, and you are listed and you have projects that you're working on that you think that partnering with BHP would help accelerate. We also like to think that BHP Xplor is for service providers, geophysical contractors, consultants, software developers, all of these sorts of things. And we look at ways through the program of bringing those groups in to collaborate and work with the cohort and with BHP to see how we can further accelerate mineral exploration through these partnerships. I've used the word partnership a lot. What does that mean in real money? And that's probably the first thing. If you're selected for the BHP Xplor program, you receive a $500,000 grant, and that's US dollars. And then in addition to that grant, there is then a 6-month program, which Mike Jones described as a mini MBA in minerals exploration. What that really means is that there will be masterclasses from a network of global experts, both internal to BHP as well as externally, particularly with our research partners. There will be events to meet and discuss your projects with BHP's vendor network. And you also have access to a global community of people who are also driving forward with exploration and trying to see how we can reach that next future state of exploration. And really the goal of all of that is to create an environment where collaboration can happen, where everybody is sharing their ideas, everybody is solving problems together, everybody is answering the big questions in a psychologically safe environment where you can come together and have those discussions. Another quote from the cohort was that a highlight for them was how the largest mining company in the world could partner with some of the smallest explorations in the world and actually have a meeting of minds. And this goes back to that idea of partnership, that it really is a coming together to solve a common problem. And really, what are we driving for? We are driving for discovery. Another one of the cohort described exploration as a treasure hunt. And that's absolutely what drives us all, is that desire to discover. But it's worth noting that for BHP Xplor, discovery doesn't just mean finding an ore deposit in the ground. It's also discovering new ideas, new geological concepts, new ways of working, new ways of collaborating with the communities, new ways of respecting the environment. These are all discoveries that are part of the BHP Xplor journey. And the common thread between all of them and everybody who was in the program last year, and one of the key things we are looking for this year for the BHP Xplor cohort, is passion. Everybody in the Xplor team is incredibly passionate about what we do. And we feel that the cohort that came through with us this year was equally passionate, whether it is about the rocks and even the non-geologists in the team were getting excited about going out in the field and finding copper mineralization, or whether it's passionate about where their careers are going, how they're engaging with the public, how their projects are advancing. And the final words on that are from Juho from Nordic Nickel. He's the chief geologist for that group. And he said it was difficult to put it into words, but it was life-changing. And I will leave you with the idea that hopefully you would like to come on this journey with us, that you are passionate about discovery, and that you consider submitting your application to BHP Xplor. Thank you.
Thanks, Libby. That was great. Are you limited to the commodities that BHP currently mine?
Our focus is copper and nickel for this round of Xplor, but we're not excluding any critical metals, and we are considering things on a case-by-case basis.
Righto. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Libby, thanks for the presentation. Really interesting to hear what BHP is looking to do. I guess to help sort of understand what you're looking for, I know you provided a really good general overview, but in terms of the specific criteria that applications are reviewed against, is there any sort of colour for specifics for an exploration type project, what technical merits and what level of detail I guess the reviewers are looking for?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's absolutely a valid question. So I'll start, as you say, I provided a very high level overview. I'll step one in and then provide a little bit more detail on a couple of things. Really, the first thing that we're looking for when we are reviewing an application is that concept or project that you look at and go, man, I want to learn more about that. As a geologist, as someone who's worked in global generative work, I've had my eyes across a lot of different things. The application review team has seen a lot of different things. And it is always such a cool feeling when you read an application and you go, huh, I want to know more about that. And that is, if you look at the way the application form is laid out, one of those first things is describe your exploration concept. And that's where we start. Is it something that makes us go, yeah, cool, okay? And I know that that's not a specific criteria, but hopefully being in exploration, you can understand that feeling. And then we do look at, okay, there's this concept. What are some of the key geological data that supports that concept may actually be happening? And it could be, regional geophysics. It could be a rethinking of a model based on field observations. It could be looking at the mineral system and saying, do you know what? I actually think that these key processes are happening in this place that nobody's ever looked at before. And so really the heart of it from a technical perspective is that what if idea, and then some actual grounding in observational data that is relevant to the scale and the stage of the project, given that what we are looking for in many cases is early stage opportunities. And then we do also consider how the applicant is thinking about technical risk and above ground risk. Every single project that was successful last year had risks associated with it, had technical questions that we were looking for answers for, had challenges that they were looking to solve around ESG, community engagement, environmental, that sort of thing. And so, we also are looking for people who've been really honest about the risk profile of their projects. And then finally, we also look at the desire of the applicant to take everything they can out of the program. So it isn't just that $500,000, which is obviously a major driver for junior companies in particular, but it is wanting to collaborate with BHP on advancing their project and taking all of the learnings and ideas and opportunities that come with the program and taking that back to their opportunity.
Thank you. That's extremely helpful.
Just expanding on Sam's great question, from the cohort from this year, can you give us an example of, what was the zinger thing that, from one of those projects that actually made you guys promote that in and above anything else? I presume it's project rather than people related as well.
So it is mostly project related, but there is a people component. As I said, we are looking for people to participate in the program who come to it with a positive mindset, come to it with an open mind, with that desire to share and collaborate. It is a cohort, it is a community, and to have someone who's going to sit in the corner and brood, I don't know, isn't ideal. In terms of an example, and I'll pick one that's from one of the public companies. Nordic Nickel came to us with a project in Finland. It had a historic shallow resource on it. But what they also had was their chief geologist, Juho, who had spent a lot of time working in the region, had looked at the various deposits that are known there, had looked at the geology of the belt and said, I think I have a new mechanism for triggering immiscible sulfide formation. I think it's triggered by these particular host rocks, but we need to drill deep to test it. It hasn't been tested in this region. But this is my idea. This is my concept. This challenges some of the main pieces of the nickel mineral system. And this is what we want to do. And as someone who came out, my first work, my master's work was on the Platte Reef, on the Bushveld, on sulfur isotopes, immiscible sulfide formation, something like that. You look at and go, man, I thought we'd kind of got this all figured out. Steve Barnes and those guys with contamination stories, and this guy's coming along and saying, no, I think in this region something else has happened, and has happened successfully to form an ore deposit. And that's just one example of what was a new concept for us that we wanted to help Nordic Nickel explore.
Awesome, thanks. Is BHP Xplor looking globally or focused on a particular region of the world in terms of project or company selection?
Oh, that's a brilliant question, and absolutely we are looking globally. We really do want to see the best that the planet has to offer, and we don't want to limit ourselves. Something I say a lot, and I actually stole it from King's Rose, who's another one of the cohort from last year. Geology doesn't respect geopolitical boundaries. And so when you're wanting to think about the geology, restricting yourself is to country boundaries is sometimes not the right way to think. Having said that, we have some legal limitations. We can't engage in projects or individuals in sanctioned countries. That's just a legal restriction. But that is really where the line is for opportunities.
How does the confidentiality work between the parties?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to speak to that at a high level. I'm not a lawyer. I would encourage you, there are the terms and conditions and privacy policy of the application process are online on the website, bhp.com/explore. That said, so that's the legalese piece of it. Generally speaking, there is a 2-year confidentiality clause. It works in both directions. We want to respect the data and the projects that you are bringing to us. We are not here to overstake you. We are not here to steal your ideas. And so there is a confidentiality structure built into that, which protects you as an applicant and us for sharing our internal tools and processes and ways of thinking.
What about the resource potential? Does VHMSs, for example, rank lower than porphyry targets in copper because it's harder to find a BHP-sized deposit?
That's a really good question. And it's one we've talked about a lot, especially when we were setting up for the first application screening. So we look at value for projects within BHP Xplor in different ways. You are correct that most VMS deposits do not have the potential to be a long-lived development, which is the kind of thing that BHP likes. And the reason we like them is it gives us optionality, it gives us market coverage, it allows us to flex into different spaces depending on what the markets are doing. That being said, there are some doozies of VMS deposits out there. If we could find another Kidd Creek or something like that, bring it on. I mean, that's a hell of a mine. So we're not closed to ideas, we're open to them, but there is a size potential component of value. Having said that, value isn't just about the rocks in the ground, it is about knowledge, ideas, information sharing, learning about operating in different countries, above ground risk, and all of those things. So we don't exclude things based purely on deposit type, but it's a bigger conversation.
So you mentioned that, yeah, you've touched a lot on the technical side today, and then now on the operational side a little bit with Richard. Could you touch a bit more on the third aspect, business, as well?
Yeah, and this is a fun one for me because coming into this role, this was actually a space for me to learn a bit. And we take the cohort through things like business chemistry, which is the idea that everybody has different ways of working. This isn't quite the same as your sort of Myers-Briggs or whatever it is, but it's, do you prefer to receive bullet point emails, or do you want a chat over coffee, or do you want a PowerPoint presentation? And what that means for a team and how a team functions together. We go through business strategy. So this is a concept that often in junior exploration maybe isn't talked about enough, but what is your company trying to achieve, or what is you as an individual are trying to achieve? What is your end goal? Where can you flex into if this particular version of things doesn't work? We use a lot the playing to win. So, you know, where to play, how to win, what's your winning strategy? We do things like media training and that sort of thing. And it's really, I find it so valuable to be having those conversations, because so often as exploration geologists, it is, what are the rocks telling me? What is the, you know, what is the upside potential of this project, that sort of thing. But to really say, okay, what's our 3 to 5 year plan? You know, where are we going with this? Do we have, you know, do we have development plans for our team? Do we have, you know, all of these things, which, and I spent 8 years working for juniors. So definitely aware that sometimes you just don't have the time to catch your breath to think about these sorts of things. And that's something else we think, it's going to sound a little prosaic, but as an accelerator, we provide the space and the funding for you to slow down so that you can think about these things and then speed up. And to me, I think it's yeah, I certainly found it an incredibly fascinating aspect of the program to be able to participate in with the cohort.
Really grateful to have had you, Libby. So thank you so much for joining us today, and all the best with, yeah, the application selection. It's it's going to be very interesting to see what happens over the next few months.